how effective have other aid donors been in influencing the government of Cambodia regarding the efforts to improve human rights conditions? And how has China's assistance affected those such efforts?
If I may, Government, I think this issue is very, very important. I think the track records of China, a big, very significant donor in the development of Cambodia, is something that we worry about. And the signs, the really clear signs that the government is becoming more and more secure about the crackdowns, about the oppression. I believe it is a significant link between Chinese aid and this wider, stronger, widespread of human rights. I think in that sense, I urge the US to join its voice, its stance with other donors, such as the EU. Just recently, over the situation just last month, the EU, or the 27 governments of the EU, put together one message to the government of Cambodia. I think the US should join the EU and other governments to put forward a very strong message. And I think here, the Congress, I urge the Congress to put a resolution, strong resolution, and that will also give a message and protection to us to say that you cannot tolerate this situation and to give hope to the people of Cambodia. Thank you.
Anyone else? Sophie?
Yeah, if I can just add a quick word to that. I mean, obviously the presence of hundreds of millions of dollars of completely unconditioned aid does not help. But I think one of the other problems that creates is sometimes a little bit of a, I don't quite mean race to the bottom, I think you know what I mean.
Right, I do. That's what I'm worried about.
You know, that we often hear from across the donor community that if, you know, they don't engage on X and such issue, the Chinese will. And therefore, they'll lower their own standards simply to have a seat at the table rather than get left behind. And I mean, we've certainly heard this repeatedly about dealing with the military, that either the US can get in there or the field is essentially ceded to the Chinese. And I don't want to see the standards being negotiated to the low level of the Chinese government. I think we have to be clear about what our own red line is, right, that we're not going to drop below. And frankly, I think that even if Chinese aid, you know, dried up tomorrow, we would still face a lot of the same problems. But that if Hun Sen didn't want U.S. money or U.S. recognition, you know, the U.S. would have been asked to leave, right? I mean, there's still plenty of room, plenty of leverage, I think, there to work with.
Yes, I think that there are two groups of donors, unfortunately, for Cambodia. The group of democratic country, they're always raising the issue of human rights, good governance, and anti-corruption, etc. But unfortunately, like for China, China is now the biggest donor, and the condition of China is not the same as the democratic country. So by saying that China gives us the aid without condition is not true. The condition of China is different. It's not concerning human rights, not concerning the good governance, but they would like maybe the oil, they would like to have concession, they would like maybe the forest, the mine, etc. So this is make our government can play two cards, you know, saying that the government can rely on some donor without condition. But I still think that USA, you still have a good influence on Cambodian government. As now you resume the bilateral cooperation with Cambodian government, I think that you still can talk, can have dialogue with our government. This is leave you some influence on our government. I still think that.
Well, I appreciate
and you can join the group of, you know, EU now start to be a little bit more active than in the past.
Well, I appreciate that. I think that, and I'll just close with this, I think you've all given us a lot of food for thought here. To maybe have us sit down with our officials and have a more frank conversation about some of these things, as well as perhaps in the short term, you know, asking the Cambodian embassy officials who are here maybe to come in and they provide us with a statement in response to everything today. And there may be some discrepancies between what they're saying and what you're saying, but I think it may be, it may incite a very good conversation, but I think we need to have a dialogue and let them know that we are very, very concerned at a minimum, so they can report back to the government in Cambodia. But I think maybe those two things are concrete things we can do in the short term. Meet with our own officials, and also meet with the officials from Cambodia who are here in Washington. I think that might be something we can do pretty quickly. Yes?
May I add something? This is not possible. Maybe it's a dream, but maybe you can try.
Everything
why
is possible.
not? Yes. Why not talking to the high ranking of China and demonstrate that if they work in Cambodia, it's good that they can influence Cambodian government to take the right direction toward democracy. Because China was one of the countries that ratified the peace agreement.
Well, I think that's a good suggestion too. I should just tell you though, for the record, I have had some experience with the government of China, Frank more than me, but I've tried to influence China when it came to the issues in Sudan and Darfur, and have had very little luck. But clearly, I think it's important that we let the Chinese government know too that we expect them to care about human rights and that they can play a positive role if they want to. And that would be very welcome. That would be a welcome step. At this point, I want to yield to my co-chair, who knows a lot about this issue, Congressman Frank Wolf from Virginia.
Thank you, Jim. And I have a 2:30 appointment in my office, so, but I'm really here because of Jim Moran and the hearing. I'm glad we had the hearing, and I'm glad Jim asked. Speaking for myself, I believe that our embassy should be an island of freedom. It should be a place that you feel very comfortable coming to and to be your advocate, if you will, for the protection. And again, speaking for myself, I will write a letter to our ambassador saying that we somewhat hold our ambassador embassy partially responsible for when you return to the country to meet with you, and also to sort of let them know that it is careful that you're under their watchful eye. We've done that on a number of other countries, in China and all, and I think it would be helpful for our embassy to actually meet you at the airport and to let them know that they stand with you. And secondly, if anything, I appreciate Jim McGovern raising this, and I saw the note with regard to the potential threats. Again, speaking for myself, if there is any harm or ill will done to any of you, I personally will offer an amendment to cut the aid across the board, zeroed out, military, non-military, everything to Cambodia, because I think we need you, and I think you're really the Solzhenitsyns and the Elena Bonners of Cambodia, willing to be forward, to come forth. That doesn't mean that everyone will agree with everything you say, but no one should live in fear or intimidation. So obviously there is a lobbyist in this room from the Cambodian embassy, or there's someone here representing. If anything happens to these four people, I personally will do it, and I think we would get a lot of other members to go along. And so thank you for being willing to stand up and speak out. It's been an educational process. Elizabeth, who's been in my office, has sort of brought me up to speed on a lot that's going on. I appreciate Jim holding this hearing, and Jim Moran bringing it to us. China has not been a good influence around the world, and I think there's been a problem both in their own country, Catholic bishops, Protestant pastors, and I'm not so sure that we're going to be able to move them. The military thing almost sounds like East Timor revisited almost. I will also do a letter to Secretary Gates, asking Secretary Gates to make this a priority for our military liaison as they do to make sure